It's official, Golden State just solved the one problem that's had us pacing the living room for 2 seasons. Or did we? What if I told you the new guard in town isn't just a shooter, not just a steady hand, but the exact lever that turns late clock improvisation into scheduled points? What if I said the front office finally chose certainty over hope, craft over chaos, and brought in a guard who doesn't need perfect screens to punish a mistake? Sit with that for a second. Think about how many times last year Steph dragged 3 defenders into deep water, and we still came up short because the secondary initiator wasn't a threat to bend coverage. Now imagine that possession ending in a clean pocket pass, a foul drawn on a jittery big, or a pull-up 3 with the confidence of a man who's done it in June. That's the energy tonight. And yes, I'm going to walk you through how we got here, what it fixes, what it risks, and how this changes the map for bench Steph, closing lineups, and the kids we want to keep growing. Stay with me. I'll land the headline you want when it actually means something for how we play next week, not just how it trends tonight. Here's the promise. I'll give you the honest internal reasoning behind the move, the on-court blueprint that Steve Kerr and the staff have been begging to run consistently, the cap mechanics that made this even remotely feasible in the second apron era, and a plain English breakdown of how the rotation shakes out from day 1 to game 20. I'll also show you why this isn't anti-youth. It's anti-mess. And I'll finish with the concise bottom line and an open question to you, because this channel lives on the pushback from people who love this team enough to argue for it. Let's start with the truth none of us loved. When Steph sat, our offense played roulette. Some nights the ball fizzed, others it clanked, and far too often we asked role players to be something they're not. Turnovers weren't just numbers. They were mood killers. Pace was a band-aid. When games slowed in the half court, we didn't have the second pull-up creator who keeps the defense honest after the first action dies. That's not a small flaw. That's structural. You don't mask it with try harder. You fix it with a guard who can create a shot without needing the system to hand him one every time. Enter the profile we've begged for: compact frame, high steal rate instincts, tough as rebar at the point of attack, quick trigger on catch and shoot threes, willingness to accept small star usage while delivering big moment equity, low turnover gate, and the cold-blooded willingness to pull from 27 when the possession deserves a dagger. A guard who has been the adult in the room on deep-run teams, who understands read and react defense, who can speak the language of split cuts without a textbook. That's not theoretical. That's Fred VanVleet, S-Resume winners wiring with an accountant's attention to detail. Now picture this in Warriors language. First action, 21 series with Steph as a ghost screener. The weak side tagger cheats one step toward the nail because Steph, in the old world, we kick to a fine shooter who may or may not threaten the closeout. In the new world, the ball finds a guard who pump and goes, rips the lane, and either throws a pocket dart to the short roller or stops on a dime for the pull-up 2 the defense swore we didn't want. Same diagram, new outcome. Defenders lose there, we can live with that comfort. And when defenders lose comfort, rotations get late, hands get grabby, and free throws appear. That's half court. Now the transition layer. Our best version this year demands early ball pressure that becomes offense. Turn steals into sprays is the motto, but it dies without guards who dig, fight over, and recover with purpose. VanVleet's hands are active without gambling us into 4-on-3 auto losses. One deflection becomes a 45-cut layup. One chest-to-chest at the nail becomes an odd-man sprint the other way. He's not a solo fast break artist. He's a serial advantage creator, and that matters more on a team that already runs. Let me address the elephant. Does a small backcourt survive in May? That's the deep fear whenever we pair Steph with another undersized guard. The distinction here is in the usage and the map of cross matches. Our staff won't live in too small all night. They'll live in the right 2 small minutes. The defense shifts to a low-mistake shell top lock the hot shooter. Peel switch on the slot. bring the low man higher so the tag is immediate, and let Draymond or a switchable wing erase the mismatch with a pre-switch. The point is not that size suddenly stops mattering. It's that we get to choose when it matters, because the offense is paying us back for the risk with elite possession quality. Let's walk through lineups so you can feel this, not just imagine it. Start, close template 1. Steph, VanVleet, Wiggins, Kuminga, Draymond. That 5 rebounds by committee, runs by committee, and this is key, can play both horns delay and 5 out without changing personnel. You want to go big against bigger wings? Slide in Trace Jackson Davis for Wiggins or Kuminga, and let the 2 guards torch drop with empty corner pick and rolls. Need more containment at the point? Gary Payton 2 becomes the pressure valve, with VanVleet taking the secondary score where we used to tuck a less efficient ball handler. The difference is not that we invented new plays. It's that every old play gets teethed out. Roll clarity is where this move earns its check. Brandon Podziemski no longer carries the every possession adult weight with bench lineups. He gets to be the connective human metronome. Hit the next read, cut, relocate, punish rotation with a 45 cut or quick trigger 3. Moses Moody can live as an interval scorer, not a backup engine. Wiggins doesn't need to eat late clock ISOs he doesn't want. He hunts open side post seals and draws the second. Kuminga keeps stretching his on-ball reps, but now they come with scaffolding, a guard who delivers him on time at the dotted line when the help is on the wrong foot. Trace gets graduate-level DHOs because there's always a guard who drags 2 with the ball and frees the back cut. This is development through structure, not development through chaos. Okay, cap mechanics in simple English. Second apron teams don't get cute. You can't sign and trade your way into a star, and you can't turn small contracts into big with aggregation magic. To even entertain a move like this, you need salary that matches, a partner aligned on timeline, and a player whose game is worth burning limited flexibility. The point here is not spreadsheets. It's philosophy. If you're going to live in the deep tax neighborhood, you either pay for a top 7 rotation piece who changes the way you win possessions, or you sit it out and trust internal growth. Golden State chose to pay for a possession changer. Let's talk playbook, because that's the candy for hoop nerds. Split action becomes a trap. Shade Steph. VanVleet darts. Stick on Fred. Steph walks into a handoff 3 like it's 2015 again. Spain PNR wrinkles multiply. Imagine Steph as the back screener while VanVleet snakes. Then Steph pops instead of rolling, and Draymond dices a 2-on-1 in the short roll. Elbow series grows sharper. Post entry to Dre, guard-to-guard split, VanVleet back cut, or flare if the tag sits. And late game? Welcome back to bend them until they break, without overcooking Steph's tank. The bailout shot no longer requires a miracle. It just requires a guard who makes simple things look inevitable. Now the calendar. The staff will install in layers, not all at once. Week 1 is language terminology, hand signals, who calls what when the arena is a jet engine. Week 2 is 2-man packages, Steph, Fred, PNR footwork, pocket windows. How to feel the drop when the drop is thinking about Curry. Week 3 is the kids bridging VanVleet to pods and pistol, teaching Kuminga when to lift and when to dive, so the weak side tagger has to pick the lesser evil. By week 4, you're not thinking about new. You're thinking about hours. Defense deserves its own paragraph because the stereotype misses the nuance. VanVleet contests like a forward in a guard's body. He'll lose height battles. He rarely loses position. He takes charges. He fouls smart. Pair with DP2, you can throw a full-court wrinkle for 3 minutes that changes a game. With Wiggins and Kuminga switching the wings and Draymond calling out the traps, you get the old Warriors noise, the coordinated chaos that turns comfortable offenses into rush floaters. No, this backcourt doesn't make you the 96 Bulls. It makes you the modern Warriors again, a team whose defense starts with communication and discipline, then cashes it in with lev ball turnovers. The biggest human impact is on Steph. This isn't about hiding him. It's about weaponizing him. Off the ball, he becomes a climate event against defenders wear ankle braces for a reason. On the ball, he gets to pick his bursts. When you can afford 2 quiet minutes from Curry in the second quarter because someone else can run the offense to a 6-2 mini win, you arrive at the fourth with a different version of 30. And in the fourth, that difference looks like lift, like patience, like a shot release with no bargaining in his legs. What about the last 2 minutes calculus we've lost too often? It flips. Teams that pre-switch to kill our split action now concede something they can't stomach. A guard who will walk into an elbow jumper if the big retreats a hair. A guard who will get to the line when the help comes late. A guard who won't throw the grenade to a teammate with no time. Clutch is mostly about predictable outcomes. VanVleet gives you predictable outcomes in ways that don't depend on whistles or miracles. Let's talk ego, because the best guards have one. VanVleet's is healthy. He understands he's wired as a floor general with a sniper's conscience. That's perfect here. No one's coming to be Curry. They're coming to amplify him. The great Warriors teams had second ball handlers who thought like starters and played like Closer's Livingston in the mid-range. Andre as the connective tissue, even Jordan Poole in the good days when his chaos tilted toward creation. VanVleet fits that tradition with a sturdier defensive baseline and a cleaner decision tree. Risks? Of course, any guard with a big minute load and a compact build takes hits. The medical and performance staff will earn their rings in the routine. Availability is the new superpower. Expect carefully managed back-to-backs early. Plan burst windows instead of endless green lights. And a heavy diet of actions that let him decelerate into advantages rather than attack through bodies. You don't buy a Swiss watch and then run it through a car wash. You treat it like what it is, the thing that makes the rest work on time. The youth pipeline, this is where I want to be crystal. This move doesn't bury Podzinski. It graduates him. The reps he gets next to a plug-and-play veteran are different reps, harder reads, tighter windows, fewer training wheels. That's how a connector becomes a winning starter. Kuminga benefits twice. A guard who throws him on time on slots and a guard who forces the defense to show the help early. So JK's burst is finishing, not inventing. TJD learns the DHO with 2 real pull-up threats. Mistakes hurt less because the pass is on his shooting pocket. Development by osmosis is a lazy myth. Development by structure is how banners happen. Culture check. The league knows what it means when Golden State bets on a guard like this. We're not chasing vibes. We're chasing playoff shot quality. That message reverberates through every prep meeting at Chase Center. It also tells the room we're done wasting low-leverage months, hoping the second unit figures it out on vibes. We're building them a map. Veterans respond to that. Young guys learn from that. Opponents scout that and understand they can't nap on the B group. I want you to imagine a random Wednesday in January. Second quarter, Steph sits. The lineup is VanVleet, Podzinski, Wiggins, Kuminga. TJD. First set, pistol into a dribble handoff. Reject to the middle, kick to Wiggins, shallow cut, no shot. Reset. Second set, Spain look with Pods lifting off the back screen. The tag comes, dunk to TJD, dunk or foul. Third set, empty corner pick and roll, Kuminga 45 cuts. The weak side is late because the strong side was a real scoring threat. That 3-possession sequence is 6 to 8 points and 0 panic. That's the value quiet control. Clock management is a coach's best friend, and it improves here. Kerr can go offense-defense without subbing. Because VanVleet isn't a defensive target, you must hide every possession. He communicates, he shades, he digs. That means you can live in your best 5 longer without timeouts to micromanage coverages. Closing the final 2 minutes with flow instead of stoppage favors a team with experience and free throw makers. We get both. Will there be nights when the small backcourt looks, well, small? Yes, that's where personnel choices matter. If a matchup screams length, you stagger more. Play the Steph Wiggs J.K. Dre D look and let VanVleet run the second group to a tie instead of a dip. The point isn't to pretend size doesn't matter. It's that the toolbox now has a wrench that fits most bolts. So you need fewer hammers. Now, let me pull the curtain on the part you've been waiting for. And I'll say it with the clarity I promised from the start. Golden State has moved to bring Fred VanVleet into the fold and has aligned usage, installs, and rotation around a two-guard core. Inside the building, that's treated as a done decision roles mapped, minutes budgeted, play calls tagged. Publicly, the pen-on-paper moment is a formality that travels on timing and paperwork, and nothing about that changes the basketball reality the staff is already preparing for. In other words, the organization is operating as if the deal is done because the basketball plan demands that level of commitment. That's the headline, exactly how it's lived here. So what shifts the first week he's in uniform? Expect two immediate themes: early clock aggression and red zone clarity. Early clock means hunting 2-on-1 south before the defense gets set pushes to the slot, drag screens, quick veers that force the big to declare. Red zone clarity means late clock pick and rolls that end with either a clean pull-up or a crisp pocket. No more hot potato bailouts. Expect Steph to log a hair fewer on-ball touches that feel heavy and a few more off-ball touches that feel deadly. Expect Wiggins to eat in the mid-post when defenses hide a smaller guard on him to cover for VanVleet. Expect Kuminga to feast on short closeouts, because the strong side help can't shade two snipers and live dot numbers to track if you want to judge. The impact with outtakes, second unit turnover rate, pull-up three efficiency from the non-Steph guard spot, free throw rate in clutch minutes, and points per chance on empty corner PNR. You don't need all of them to swing. Two will tell you the story. Watch the boredom. Two the good kind. Watch how many possessions look routine and end in quality. Good teams are built on repeatable boredom that makes other teams miserable. If we're being grown-ups, there's still a range of outcomes. On the high end, you rediscover an identity that has Steph fresh in the fourth and a bench everyone trusts. On the median, you raise the floor of the offense enough that your defense can win you the marginal nights. On the low end, you learn quickly, adjust to stagger, and still get more clarity than you had yesterday. That's a favorable range. Before I wrap, I want your voice in this because our comments section is where better ideas get born. If you're running this team, do you lock in the two-guard closing unit as the default, or keep the 5 best defenders look for certain matchups and accept the trade-off? How would you stagger Steph and VanVleet to keep one on the floor without burning minutes? And which young player benefits most from Fred's arrival pods for the reads, Kuminga for the touches, or TJD for the DHO school? Hit me below. I read every sharp take, and I bring the best into the next video. Concise analysis to close. The Warriors addressed their most repeatable weakness with a guard built for our system and our standards, turning late-game burden into shared control and giving the bench a real adult. If you care about sustainable winning, this is the rare point guard swing that aligns basketball sense with cap reality and development goals. If you value this kind of sober, inside-out breakdown, subscribe to Warriors News Fan Report, turn on alerts, and share this with the one friend who texts you, "We need a closer," every third quarter. Updates come fast here. The deep dives hit just as hard.